Hi guys, Bomber here. Welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be doing the second week of the CCC. This week's theme was Coins card, and the next week theme will be the last one. You need to design a card from a tab which only needs one more card to be complete, and those tabs are the War tab from Vespitule, the Slaves tab from Darmek, and the Espionage tab from the Metris faction. I leave down below in the description the link to the Discord server where you can submit your submission, and without further ado, let's jump into the reviews. So, the 5th place card is a Bag Bomb from Gotha. It's a coin, it obviously gives you +1 gold when played, and it also has 6% chance to play one such a bomb instead. I gave this coin 2 points in design out of 5, and 1 point in balance out of 5, for a final rating of 5 out of 15. And the reason why for those choices is, first of all, talking about design, is because this card is already pretty similar to another card which is already in the game, which is a Bantling Crown, which is a coin also, and +1 gold, but 22% chance to attack weakest. So those cards are pretty similar, because they both attack, because a satchel bomb is actually attacking a turn delayed, but it is essentially attacking. So those cards are already pretty similar. And also, this card is actually pretty more efficient than the Bantling Crown, because yes, it has a lower percent, but it attacks for more. And actually the losing in the percentages is not equal to the attacks, it attacks more. So because the percentages are actually 1/4 of the other, but it attacks 6 times more. So those ratios are not equal. And the problem is in this fact, because the user thought that by having a low percent chance to activate, that could also mean an higher and more powerful effect. And that's not true. It is bad design. Because think about it, a card like 1% chance you win the game is actually fine, it's balanced. But it is not pretty well designed, because 1% chance to win the game, as I said, is balanced, because it will happen only one time out of 100. And if, for example, the card is actually pretty highly costed or whatever, that means that on average, if those things are doing correctly, you will end up with a 50% chance to win and lose. So if the card is balanced, it can be balanced, but it is not fun. And is not, so for that reason it's bad design, because when it does happen, it's really unsatisfying for the ones that loses, but also I think for the one that wins with that RNG stuff, because it actually didn't deserve the win. It actually not his choices meant for his win, but actually just a flip of a coin or a dice or whatever. So for that reason, I think that low percent chance of activating effects, but that are powerful, are bad design. I prefer a higher percent effect, but a lower and less powerful effect, instead of a low chance effect but a strong effect. So for that reason, those two things are pretty much correlated both to design and balance, and so for that reason I gave it 2 points in design and 1 point in balance instead of 2. I say that they were correlated, but this card is really not balanced, because think about, for example, in Theodox, we already have a Burn Theodox, and this card will pretty much substitute the Bantling Crown for the Bag Bomb, because as I said, it is more efficient. And also is even more efficient in Theodox, because those satchel bombs could actually be cycled back into the deck, and so for that reason that will give an already toxic deck an even more toxic card in the form of coins. So really this coin is not balanced, and as I said, it is also bad designed. So for the 4th place we actually have a tie. We have 2 cards, starting off with the EMM symbol from Iminimam. I'm Miniman, I suppose that's how you read the username, and also the name of the card is a reference to the username. But anyway, the EMM symbol has +1 gold, obviously, and 10% chance to summon an Eggman Smith Muncher, so that's where the acronym came from. And an immense meat muncher is a 1 out of 5 health minion, actually ally, I should say, which has also on turn -1 health, heal your hero for 1, and whenever something loses health points, this gains +1 health points, obviously excluding others immense meat muncher. So I gave this card 3 points out of 5 in design and 3 points out of 5 in balance for a final rating of 9 out of 15. And the reason for those choices is basically on design, is because I think it's a pretty average card. We already have some other coins that summons other things, like for example the pattern one, I think it is. Also the cattle one, which were exclusive for the Kickstarters. So we already have those type of coins, and also really even the immense meat muncher that is summoned is not that thematic or interesting in design, and so for that reason I went for a pretty average design, and not that interesting but neither bad, so for that reason I gave it 3 points. And in balance also this card is either weak, as I say, for the immense meat muncher, obviously, because the coin itself is fine. It's an average coin which has a bit of an advantage, but this advantage is really not that great because, as I say, the immense meat muncher is a bit weak or annoying for the opponent. It is weak because if it comes out and it doesn't gain health points from anywhere the turn it comes out, your opponent, if he thinks that this card will be problematic, he just needs to kill it if he can, obviously. But really, at 1 health points, it is usually pretty easy to do that. Instead, if it sticks on the board the turn it gets on, and also you sacrifice something or actually make something happen, it's pretty unusual that you get to attack on the turn and actually get something hit on the turn instead of at the start of the turn. So for example, you could do that with something that damages or with Skull. Actually, it's pretty common, so anyway, you can make something lose health and pump this up to 5. Even if it does, it does not have intercept or anything, so really you can just leave it on the board. And it's not that threatening to just, even if it sticks, you are all in healing, so you're not threatening your opponent. And yes, you could use this in an Endazo deck where your health points is a resource and stuff like that, but really I don't think that's the main point of the card. But it could be annoying if your opponent is playing something like, for example, a bounty or allies attacks, so you can direct damages your hero. Your opponent's hero. So for that reason, if that's the case, if you're going against those opponents, immense meat muncher acts like an interceptor, and that will be pretty annoying. But as I said, it's just annoying, neither strong or anything. I'm more towards saying that this is weak and not strong, and so for that reason I gave it a balance of 3 stars because of 3 points. Because it is not weak but not strong, and so that's it, an average of the two things, like 3 is an average of 5. Then for the second, 4th place, we have Spell Thief piece from Tesla's Monster. It is factionless, obviously, and it is a coin, and it also has a 6% chance to draw a card from opponent. Obviously it means that it also gives you +1 gold when you play it, but that's fine. I gave it this card 2 points out of 5 in design and 5 points out of 5 in balance for a final rating of 9 out of 15, like the first. And the reason for this is because I gave it a pretty low design points, because this card is pretty similar to another coin we already have in the game, which is Divineer Charms. It is pretty similar because what it actually says is that draw a card and then from opponent, but actually it is Divineer Charms with an addition. So for that reason, since they are too similar, I gave it a low design points. But I did not give the lowest points in design, because actually the card is pretty cool in its way. It is similar to another card, but it does some things pretty differently. The first one is obviously that you can steal a card from your opponent. It acts like a subterfuge, for example, in the form of a coin. and also that's why even if it acts like another card, it is another time similar to another card which is already in the game. So it's an union of Divinatory Charms and a Subterfuge, and so for that reason even more the design is low. But actually it is pretty fun, and it could be fun, for example, and interesting in a Valdorian deck, because in that type of scenarios, even if you draw a coin, you can benefit from the advantage of Valdorian. So as I said, it's like a subterfuge in the form of a coin, but really it's not that interesting or different from something we have already in the game, and so for that reason I gave it 2 points in design. Instead, talking about balance, this card is pretty well balanced, because as I said, it's pretty similar to Divinatory Charms. It is stronger because you can steal stuff from your opponent and it can synergize with Valdorian, but it actually balanced it out to have a lesser chance to activate, and so for that reason this coin is perfectly balanced and could be in the game. Then, for the third place, we actually have 3 cards tied for the third place, starting off with Ephemeral Harrier from Jabob Joe. It is a coin, and it gives you +1 gold, obviously, but it also has 5% chance to destroy this. And I gave this card 3 points out of 5 in design, and 4 points out of 5 in balance, for a final rating of 10 out of 15. And the reason why for those choices is because, for design, is because actually it is pretty cool that a coin can destroy itself. It's actually pretty counterintuitive for a novice, because why a coin should destroy itself? I want to play my coins to get those gold, and if it is destroyed, I can no more. But actually it's much more useful than this, because the coins are actually, if you have at least 3 of them, you can have 3 golds per turn, which is the gold you gain on average with coins in every turn, because you draw 3 coins usually, and so you can get 3 golds in every turn. But actually 3 coins are all you need, and you can get the most gold you can in a turn, because you draw 3 cards. And so for that reason you would only need 3 coins to get your gold. And so you start with 10, and the reason for this is because your deck will be more less dense with the cards that are not coins, which are usually better than cards which are coins. For instance, if you, for example, take Collect Taxes, it is a coin which draws a card, so it's obviously better. All the cards should be better than a coin, with then 1 gold. And so for that reason the coins are bad, and that's why you want to run Ephemeral Area, to just get to 3 coins or less, where your deck is much more dense with good cards, but you still have the coins to just get your 3 gold per turn. And it's even more interesting than this, because you can actually get infinite in Vespitole, for example. I already talked about it in the latest video for the CCC. And so this card is pretty interesting, but not that much, because really a coin that destroys itself, you don't want this type of effect in the coin card itself. You probably want to destroy your coins with other cards. And for that reason I gave it 3 points in design. In balance instead I gave it 4 points out of 5, because while it's pretty broken that you can go infinite but just playing coins, the percentage for this effect is pretty low, and so it's actually pretty balanced. And it's true that I said before that it's not fine to have a strong effect with a low percent chance to activate, but this kind of effect is pretty fun and fine by itself, because it does not say you win the game, but it's just you have more chances to win the game. Instead, the Satchel Bomb of before was actually not, as I said, it's not even win the game, but it's attack. And attacks, you can win the game with attacks. Instead, you can't win the game by just destroying your coins. You need other stuff to win the game. And so it's a powerful effect, but not a win condition by itself. And yes, it's a pretty win condition card in Vespitole, but really, I think that's fine, and for that reason I gave it 4 points. Not the max, because it has some problems with Vespitole, as I said, and so I was not sure to give it the max points. Then for the second, third place card, we have Craig's Son from Superman. And it's a coin, obviously, it gives you +1 gold. And it also has on hold, discard, attack, 50% chance, attack again. So, I gave it 4 points out of 5 in design and 2 points out of 5 in balance for a final rating of 10 out of 15. And the reason why for those choices is because, talking about design, is because a coin like this is pretty cool. It's pretty similar to Bantling Crown because they both attack, but this does it in a pretty new way because we have an on-hold mechanic in a coin. And I think that's pretty cool. We have already on-hold mechanics in Dazu, but really having it on a coin is pretty fun. And also we have an on-hold discard, so it's like it's pretty interesting that you have a choice in this way. You can actually discard the card when you want it, actually playing it, to get +1 gold when you need it, or you can either hold it and just play it, because it discards itself, to get another effect, which is attack. So it's like this card in itself is a choice card, where it actually acts like a +1 gold or +1 attack. So I think that's pretty cool, and for that reason I gave it 4 stars, 4 points out of 5 in design. Not the max, because as I said, it's pretty a basic card, +1 gold or +1 attack, similar to Bantling Crown, and so for that reason I did not think that the max was right. Instead, for the balance, this card is pretty much overpowered, because as I said before, coins should not be win conditions, and this card is definitely a win condition. You can just pass all your turns and just discard all your Craig's Son if you have 10 of them in your deck, and it's 3 attacks per turn, 4 in the first one, and also it's even more than that, because it has the 50% chance to attack again. So it's actually, I think, 4.5 attacks per turn on average, and that's more than a Burn Theodox can do. It's not that more than the Burn Theodox, and so for that reason I did not give it 1 point only, because it's pretty fair compared to the Burn Theodox. Because think about it, for example, a Waylay or an Ambush is 2 gold for 3 attack. Instead, here you are sacrificing your 3 coins, which are worth 3 gold, to get 4.5 attack per turn, which the ratio is pretty similar to the attack you can do per turn by not playing your coins, or by playing your coins and buying cards from your bank. And so for that reason, since it's pretty similar but more efficient, I gave it 2 points, but not 1, because it's still fine. And finally, for the third place card, we have Lucky Penny from Call of Cthulhu, which is a coin. It gives +1 gold when played, and it also has 8% chance to swap a Lucky Penny for a non-coin card in your deck. And it is not written in the card, but I think that if this last effect activates, you will not gain the +1 gold which usually you gain. So with that in mind, I gave it 3 points out of 5 in design and 4 points out of 5 in balance, for a final rating of 10 points out of 15. And the reason why for those choices is because in design I gave it an average rating, because really this card, as another one from before, is pretty similar to Diviner Charms. Any card that draws a card is similar to a Diviner Charm, for coins at least. And also, even if it's a bit different, it's another time similar to another card which is already in the game, which is Burglary, in the fact that you get a non-coin card. And Burglary is actually you get that non-coin card from your opponent's deck. Instead, with the Lucky Pen you get it from your deck, but really the mechanic is pretty similar, and so for that reason this card is pretty similar to other 2 cards which are already in the game, and so that's why I gave it 3 points in design. That's a bit average. Instead, for balance, I give it 4 points, because really this card is pretty balanced, because as I said, it's pretty similar to Diviner Charms, and Diviner Charms has a 12% chance to draw a card. Instead, this one has 8% chance to draw a non-coin card. The effect is better, but you also have a lower percent chance to activate, and also you need to remember that you not get the gold for that effect. So for that reason, I think it's pretty balanced, because yes, the effect is strong, but you need to pay 1 gold for activating, and also actually you need to not gain a gold, which is like paying 1. So, and also the chance of activation is lower. And so for that reason, I think this coin is pretty balanced, and so that's why I gave it 4 points out of 5. Then, for the second place, we have Bomb Token from Rat Elemental. It's a coin, it gives you +1 gold when you play it, and it also has, if magic is more than 4, spend magic to summon Gilded Warrior instead. So, I gave this card 4 points out of 5 in design, and 4 points out of 5 in balance, for a final rating of 12 out of 15. And the reason why for those choices is because, first of all, talking about design, is because really this card is very interesting, because you get a pretty cool effect on this coin. We already have some cards that summon Gilded Warrior, and it's a bit strong to have that type of effect in a coin, because as I said, those Gilded Warrior then will be summoned and can attack. So they are like a win condition by themselves. Think about the Berserker from the Wergel 6. They are pretty strong, because you can actually win by just playing coins, and if you're lucky and you always summon Berserker from the Wergel 6, you can win. So it's a win condition coins, like for example the Bantering Crown. But all is that every turn attacks are stronger than the Bantering Crown, or actually any instant attacks, because they can attack over time, and so they are threatening, and if not removed, you can win the game with those. But this is pretty well designed, because you're actually paying something to summon those cards. It's not like a random effect that you can gain those cards or not. You actually are paying 1 gold and a magic, if you have 4 or more of it, to actually play a summon, to actually summon a Gilded Warrior, sorry. And I think that 1 gold and 1 magic is pretty good to have a Gilded Warrior summoned. I think that a Gilded Warrior is worth 1 gold and a magic. Probably a bit less than that, but it's fine to have a not that strong effect on a coin, because you're not supposed to win with just coins card. And so for that reason, it's pretty well designed. And I already talked a bit in the design about the fact that this card is also pretty well balanced, because as I said, you are paying for this effect, and I think it is done in a pretty balanced way. I am not sure about the if magic is more than 4 thing, why it is required. I may think that it's for flavor aspects, like for example, if you are not that magic powerful, you can summon the Gilded Warrior, so it's cool. But in a game mechanic perspective, I don't think it's pretty good to have that type of thing in an effect. Like if you have more than that, you can do that. And so for that reason, I detracted the point from the design and also the balance, because it's a bit weak in the sense that if you don't get those magic activators in the early game, these coins do just nothing. And I think that if magic's more than 4 is removed, this card is better in balance and design also. And finally, for the first place, we have Beggar's Regret from Gotha. It's a coin, and it gives you +2 gold, but you lose 2 health points. And I give this card 5 points out of 5 in design, and 4 points out of 5 in balance, for a final rating of 14 out of 15. And like a tail and a cross from a coin, we have Gotha both at the first place and at the last. So really, it's pretty beautiful to have this type of thing in a coin-themed week. So with that aside, let's talk about the card itself. I gave it 5 points out of 5 in design, because really the design is finding beautiful solutions which are very simple. And this card is the most simple and elegant way to solve a problem, which is what if I add a coin in the game which gave +2 gold? How is this balanced? How can I balance out those things? And making this card losing L points to balance out this strong effect is, in my opinion, the most elegant way this card could ever be designed. And for that reason, I gave it 5 points out of 5, because it's, as I said, very, very well designed. Instead, for balance, I gave it 4 points out of 5 and not 5, because probably it is a bit too strong. I think it is balanced, because yes, you are gaining double the gold, but you can only play 10 of the coins without healing or anything, and then you lose. So really, I think that yes, you are getting a very strong effect, but you can't play more than 10 per game without healing and stuff, as I said. So I think it's pretty balanced. Having a strong effect only 10, and not that strong of an effect anyway, only 10 times in the game, and also risking to not have the time to play those 10 times because you can lose by getting low on health. I think it's balanced, but as I said, I am a bit worried it can be too strong. Because the problem is that winning at 20 health points or winning at 1 health points doesn't matter, it's the same thing. So using health as a resource to gain an advantage is pretty, most of the times, a pretty strong move. Because as I said, you don't care to be low on health and winning, or being high on health and winning. You don't win more if you have more health. And so for that reason, it's perfectly fine to use all your health without losing, so just going to 1 to gain the strongest advantage you can. And you are getting those things in a coin and in economic way. So for that reason, I'm a bit worried it may be too strong, and so that's why I hold back to giving it the full and max ratings on balance. So, that's it for this video, hope you liked it and find it useful. Be sure to leave down below a comment to let me know what you want to see in the next videos, and as always, see ya!